Hello everybody, it's your boy N here. I'm coming at you guys with another YouTube video. So, in today's video, I want to talk about the Descendant's overall direction. So, this includes like where we're at right now, what's going on, baselines, everything to do with the game, and what I think it overall means going forward. There's so little content to do that a build guide is beyond my brain right now, but let's get on into this at least. So, overall, right now, let's establish our baseline. In terms of content for this game, I would say around about 75 to 80%, I'd say about 80% of the game is running dungeons in 400% or running dungeons, just full stop, in all of these locations over here. Now, with running said dungeons, obviously you don't run a dungeon in the Albion, but running dungeons here makes up the massive majority of this game. If you look at everything inside of the library, literally all of these, or almost all of these weapons, majority of these weapons are all available, and these Descendants are all available from farming one of these dungeons, apart from Ines and Keelan, who are inside of Void Vessel, and the dogs that are inside Vessel. Basically, majority of the stuff is in the main part of the game, right? So let's say 80% of the game is inside of the dungeons. I would say 8% of the game goes to Sigma Sector. I'd say 1% goes to Void Erosion on Challenge Mode. I'd say barely 1% goes towards Colossi and Axion. And then I'd say maybe 8% goes towards Purge, like actual Purge to farm cores, and then about 2% of your game goes towards Vessel, the newer Vessel at least. But you can see this game massively comprises of dungeons, so we're going to be using 400% as our baseline when I do talk about the characters in this specific instance. Now, with the characters in this instance, where are the Descendants at? Majority of these Descendants can absolutely nuke slash just violate a 400% dungeon, which is nothing wrong with that, but we can see where the content kind of is. If you throw a Bunny, a Lepic, a Jaber, Viessa, even an Enzo, Glay, Valby, Freyna, Sharon, Keelan, whoever, into a 400%, they are already more than capable of absolutely annihilating the 400%. The Descendants are already too strong for the main content in this game. And with what's going on right now as well, Descendants are even pushing the boundaries into, well, elemental switching. If you don't know, Wave Eruption allows you to switch elements with Bunny and with Blair, and then Storm Bullet allows you to change your elements with Nell, Serena, and Sharon. Serena one isn't really major because it's only on her first ability, but Nell with her ability is a bigger difference, and the same can definitely be said for Sharon. Now, with this, we're at a point where elemental switching is starting to become a thing as well. So we've already got Descendants that are insanely strong, that can annihilate the baseline, or annihilate everything in the game, and then they can also begin to switch elements. This makes me wonder where the next step is in terms of this game. Is element switching going to become a thing on like every Descendant, or are we just going to get a system that allows us to take abilities from one Descendant, put them on another? You know, something like the Helmin system from Warframe or something like that. It'd be insane to see that in this game. Imagine like just giving every Descendant Bunny speed. That would be so cursed. But just in general, it makes me wonder what the next step is. And one thing I do want to talk about is the next step, other than the actual Descendants. If we talk about the baseline, remember, the baseline for this game currently is this woman over here, and then this woman over here. In terms of skill based, it's Ines, and gun based, it's Serena. If we look at any of the gun based Descendants, they do not even come close. Luna is very, very, very strong, but I'd still say she's still behind Serena, and that's completely fine. Bear in mind, this is not a gun based Descendant. This is a skill based Descendant. So she's already about back and forth with Ines in terms of the actual technical baseline. One Descendant that annihilates every baseline currently is Bunny. Bunny is too strong for everything in this game. Bunny is miles stronger than Ines. Bunny is better than the baseline, right? And nothing wrong with that. But this brings me to the infinite baseline problem. The infinite baseline problem is something that has happened in this game several times, and we've not even been in the game long enough to see this happen several times over, but I can guarantee you this is going to be a consistent problem. What I mean by the infinite baseline problem is the fact that the developers keep changing the baseline. What happens with that is they once said the baseline for skill Descendants or for Descendants was Valby, then their baseline turned to Viessa, then their baseline turned to Bunny, then their baseline turned to Freyna. Where's Freyna? Cooked. Then their baseline turned to Freyna, and then their baseline is now Ines. And after, in the next dev stream, I can reckon them announcing that their new baseline is going to be Bunny. Their baseline just keeps moving up, and they give themselves time to work on a few Descendants and bring them up to an extent, but they're still absolutely failures according to their own baseline. Remember this, when it came to the weapons, their baseline for the weapons was the Last Dagger. They announced that the Last Dagger is their baseline for new weapons. The swords are not even the equivalent of a substat on the Last Dagger. That is just my personal take on that, at least. This is definitely a very big thing to say, making like a weapon this incredibly strong your baseline doesn't excuse where all the other weapons are at. Even according to their own baseline, a lot of these weapons are failure. The Thunder Cage, the Python, Cavalry Gun, Final Masterpiece, Excava, Secret Garden, Voltia, Greg, almost all of these weapons are just utter failures according to their own baseline. And the same thing can be said for the Descendants. All of the gunning Descendants, according to Serena as the baseline, are just utter failures. A lot of the skilled Descendants, according to Ines, are just utter failures. Their own baseline is so ridiculous that as long as their baseline keeps moving and changing, they'll never be able to stop and readjust the content to match the baseline. Let's take Vessel for example. Vessel is another thing that just came out recently. They buffed the daylights out of Bunny. Bunny annihilates in here. They just numbers buffed Freyna a while back, and even though Freyna is a toxic and she should be strong against all of the mobs inside of Vessel, she's horrible. She's one of the worst Descendants to take into the Vessel. Absolutely useless on the boss unless you run a crit setup, forcing it with Luna essentially. And that just kind of brings me back to power creep, right? Power creep. So power creep is okay. Power creep is completely perfect, right? No hate, no disrespect, no nothing towards power creep, because it's going to happen inevitably, right? But power creep needs to somehow at least be balanced to an extent. The way I mean with that is, let's take it back to a few seasons ago. When Bunny was running rampant and was the best Descendant in the game, what ended up happening is they released Freyna. Freyna could mob better than Bunny to an extent, but Bunny was still faster. See, that is an example of slight power creep. Then Ines came out, Bunny was no longer faster, and Ines could mob better. What they could have done, or what they should have done, is looked at it for what it is. Other Descendants can deal more damage, but Bunny was faster. When Ines and Freyna were out, Bunny could still outspeed them, and especially like in the earlier days, and Bunny wouldn't be able to do enough damage. She was weak, but she was the fastest. That was a fair trade-off to an extent on Bunny. Ines comes out and they said, nah, screw it, max speed, max damage, max crits, infinite MP, basically, and just, you know, everything, right? So, you know, they kind of just keep shifting back and forth. Power creep is fine as long as it's kind of controlled to an extent. I'm saying that, you know, you can have creep. It's good for the game overall, but when you have a creep like this that is 7 seasons ahead of the game, that's where we need to look back. When this character was one-shotting the Abyss boss on release on the first day and, you know, annihilating everything, is when I think they should have had a look and considered changing something. But that's not it. Other than that, I wanted to also have a look at the way people play Descendants. When you essentially make it into, once you're off normal mode and you make it into hard mode, that's kind of where you start playing, and you're gonna like play a majority of the game. I think it is MR 15 or 16 to get into Sigma Sector, so that is the thing we're going to talk about slightly now. Mastery rank for leveling or whatever, or story at least, because you got to do the Haley quest, and then you get access to invasions and 400%. with that is going to be majority of your gameplay. And once it comes up and you've scaled that, you'll go into Sigma Sector, and you'll also go into Erosion Purge and into the Axion Plains and Void Vessel, right? So with that, what does hard mode put us at? It puts us at a little bit of a stalemate. When it comes to 2 dungeons a day that rotate, if you love the dungeons, you'll play it. If you don't like the dungeons, you're not going to bother. What you need to do is essentially farm the dungeons. You need to invest in a build. 10 catalysts for a build is an absolute baseline. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 slots. You need at least a minimum of 10 catalysts. 12 is an ideal build. Having every single slot catalyzed for a build is definitely ideal, but you can get away with 10, maybe 11. And that'll give you access to the trigger mod slot, which is very good as well. Trigger mod slot will give you everything you need right there, and then you can basically just go on with that anyways. With that, right, a lot of people do not understand building. I did make a completely separate video talking about building, but the very, very, very simple version of building is essentially just find something, choose a build, and go all into it. As for example, we want to build Bunny for our 3rd ability. We want as much cooldown as we can, and to spam our 4th ability as well. And then we also just want as much damage as we can get overall. While we choose the red mod, the grapple mod, cooldown, we're going to go with the 2 focus on modules to match this, so singular and electric. And then cooldown, just the other 2 cooldown mods. Range, 2 range mods, or 1 depending on the Descendant. Damage, cost, quality of life, and the quality of life. Basically that. Your reactor, make it match cooldown, or the types, or like singular, tech, dimension, and then the same element is fine. The set to complement it. In this instance, I just want damage. I don't care about cost. Go in with that. Arcade tree, same thing. Oh, wrong tree. Cooked. Oh wait, I don't have the tree on. I don't have that right tree. Cooked anyways. But just in general, damage, cooldown, more damage, so on and so forth. You just want to build fully into one thing. Now, a lot of people will put like 4 catalysts on their Descendant and think it's completely fine. It might be for earlier game or early hard mode, but if you want to be pushing and doing the higher levels of hard mode like Axion or Vessel, you're going to need a proper build. You are 100% going to need a proper build, and a lot of people complain about it, saying we don't like running it and stuff. I want to say a quarter of that is kind of because they're not prepared to run it, but it's a back and forth. I can't really decide when someone's ready and everything like that. And you know, having a high baseline is a better way to, is a surefire better way to make more players hate you, but also make them enjoy the content more, because there'll be less problems in the content when they actually get to it. Now, another very, very big thing is the farming. Like I said, majority of it is in 400%, and then you can just come out and go to this ammo machine inside here with Inhace anyways, and you basically got everything you need right there. That's completely good as well. I think that it's a very big thing, helps new players, and if you've hung around, played the game for a while, it'll also give you a ton of rewards, especially with opening all your material patterns. So there's that, right? Farming in this game has been made significantly easier over time, and I think it's an interesting thing. Now, I want to quickly close the video, but before I do that, there's one major thing I want to talk about, and it's the most powerful thing in the game: the library. Now, content creators for this game basically have no place for this game. If I myself didn't create content for this game and nobody else created content for this game, all players ever need to do is look at the library, and there will actually never be a problem in this game. The library tells you quite literally everything. You can go to miscellaneous, you can hit acquisition info, and for majority of these resources, you can just straight up go and target it. So put it as a target reward to get yourself the drop, and target it, so whenever you run the mission, your chances increase by X%, and you'll eventually get what you want. The more things you target, the less percentage goes up, so target one thing at a time for maximum efficiency. Other than that, Descendants as well, the newer Descendants like Inhace, Keelan, stuff like that, the ones that come out of boxes, again, you can just target their parts, so when you keep getting it, the pity system will eventually give it you regardless. Same thing for Nell and anything new, same for the fellows, same for the vehicles, same for a lot of the weapons. And then you can look at the modules in here as well. Just look at your modules, see what you want. I don't know, let's say you're after high voltage for Bunny, search it up here, click it here, acquisition info, where do I get it? Hard intercept battle pyromaniac. I can literally click that and it'll take me right there. If not, I just back out, and then I just, you know, go find it, all of that. Another big thing is combining modules. A lot of players forgot this thing exists. Don't forget it exists. You can literally go to the modules guy and just max your modules out with any color modules and just keep combining them, and you will eventually get every single module. That's another very powerful thing. But yeah, make sure you are using this. Same with the external components, it will tell you where to get them. Mutant cells, same thing. Just make sure you use the library because it can tell you literally everything. Simple, right? But anyways, guys, that's essentially been this video. I just wanted to kind of talk about direction a little bit. You know, there's a big back and forth with a lot of things, but that's kind of my rundown on it. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed. If you did, smash that like button, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.